Welcome to Koch's propane leak check testing demonstrations. This video was produced to demonstrate new equipment that is available for leak check testing propane vapor systems, which is an important factor in detecting leaks in propane systems and maintaining a safe installation. When bobtail drivers and propane service people conduct a leak test that complies with NFPA 54, they must deal with a variety of installations. With this in mind, Koch & Associates developed 3 alternative leak check kits. In the following demonstrations, we will highlight the features of Koch's designs. This is not to replace individual propane company policies or procedures, and any use of the kits must be conducted by trained and qualified individuals. The required basic steps in leak check of a new system or when an interruption of service occurs are: number 1, turn the container service valve off. Number 2, install a pressure tap valve fitting in the system. Number 3, connect the gauge device to the valve fitting. Number 4, slowly open the container service valve, allowing pressure to be recorded on the gauging device. Number 5, close the container service valve. 6, bleed down pressure on the gauge device to a pressure that unlocks pressure regulators upstream of the gauge device. Number 7, observe the reading of the gauge device for a minimum of 3 minutes to detect any drop in pressure indicating a leak in the system, or increase indicating a leak through the container service valve. Number 8, the basic procedure may be modified to comply with specific propane company policies, leak check equipment manufacturer's requirements, or requirements of the local authority having jurisdiction. Depending on which gauge or kit the company decides to use, the valve fitting can be installed at the outlet of the first stage regulator, at the pressure connection on a high pressure test block, at the intermediate pressure of a twin stage regulator, or the pressure tap on the new style container valves. Can also be installed at the outlet of the second stage regulator. The first demonstration will be conducted using Koch's TG series single point test gauge assembly. It has a 30 psi gauge and is limited to testing a 2-stage regulator system with a first stage regulator that has an outlet pressure tap, or a system with an integral 2-stage regulator. We will follow the basic leak check procedure. We have gone to the point where the test assembly is installed and connected to the valve fitting. When the container valve is open, the pressure increases to the lockup pressure of the first stage regulator, approximately 10 psi. The valve is closed and the vent valve is opened to drop the pressure to unlock the first stage regulator, and the test for a minimum of 3 minutes to detect any leakage is followed. After the 3-minute test period, the pressure remained at approximately 8 psi, indicating no leak in the system. A connection at the inlet to the second stage regulator was loosened to create a leak, and the test is being repeated. valve is open, increasing pressure to the lockup pressure of the first stage regulator. The valve is closed. Vent valve is open, dropping the pressure down to approximately 8 psi, and we're starting the 3-minute test. Pressure is already dropping, showing there's a leak in the system. We are now using the KV series multi-point gauge assembly to show its versatility versus the TG gauge. It has a 30 psi gauge, and it also includes a built-in pressure regulator set to 12 psi. This feature increases the versatility of the gauge assembly so that it can be connected to a valve fitting in the outlet of the first stage regulator or to the pressure connection on the intermediate pressure of a twin stage regulator. It can also be connected to the pressure tap on the new style service valves, and also to the high pressure test block when the first stage regulator does not have a pressure tap. In the first test using the KV multi-point, we are connected to the valve fitting in the outlet of the first stage regulator. This is the same condition or connection that we used in the TG demonstration. Following the same basic leak procedure, the valve is opened, pressure reduced to the gauge, pressure is bled off, unlocking the regulator, and the leak check test shows that there is a pressure drop within a few seconds of closing the bleeder valve. With the KV series connected to the high pressure test block. With this setup, the built-in pressure regulator is controlling the pressure to the gauge to 12 psi, and we will follow the same leak check procedure, opening the container service valve. The pressure increases the built-in regulator setting of approximately 12 to 14 psi. The valve is closed, pressure is bled off, and we are starting the leak test. Observing for 3 minutes minimum, you can see that the pressure is already starting to drop, and it's down to 5 psi within less than a minute. We'll now demonstrate testing with the SKV series universal test assembly compared to the TG single point and the KV multi-point. The SKV series gauge looks like the KV, but the gauge is a low pressure water column gauge, and the built-in regulator is set at 22 inches water column rather than 30 psi gauge and a 12 psi regulator that we have in the KV assembly. This makes the SKV series universal in application. In this demonstration, we are connecting to the fitting in the outlet of the first stage regulator, just like the TG demonstration and the first test with the KV series, following the same basic leak check procedure. We're now opening the tank service valve. Pressure increases, and it's being controlled by the built-in regulator on the assembly to approximately 22 inches water column. The container valve is closed. Vent valve is open to bleed off pressure to less than 9 inches water column. Pressure now is about 8 inches water column. We're starting the test. It is dropping immediately within a few seconds. It's down to 0, and that's from the same leak rate that we observed at the second stage regulator. This is the second demonstration with the SKV series, and we are connected to the high pressure test block. This allows tank pressure to go to the assembly that is then controlled by the built-in pressure regulator of the assembly that is set at 22 inches water column. Following the same leak check procedure, when the valve is opened, pressure increases to this lockup pressure of the built-in regulator, approximately 21 to 22 inches water column. The valve is closed, vent valve is opened, allowing pressure to drop it to approximately 9 inches water column, and we start the test. And pressure is immediately dropping from the same leak that we've had. This will be the third demonstration with the SKV assembly. We are now connected to the outlet pressure tap of the second stage regulator. This goes beyond the capability of the KV series, but we will follow the same leak test procedure. With the SKV connected at the outlet of the second stage regulator or anywhere downstream of the second stage regulator, such as an appliance manifold, the pressure to the assembly is limited by the setting of the second stage regulator, since it is lower than the 22-inch water column setting of this built-in regulator. Following the same leak check procedure, the container valve is opened, pressurizing the system, and closed. The pressure shown is approximately 13 inches water column. That's the lockup pressure of the second stage regulator, and it indicates that second stage regulator is operating properly. So we now follow the procedure, opening the vent valve, and we bleed off pressure to less than 9 inches water column. This will take some time to allow the yard line to drop from 10 psi. I recommend opening the vent valve and then closing it. You can see it goes back over 9, so you open it again. Continue to let pressure bleed off until it stabilizes at less than 9 inches water column when the vent valve is closed. We're now less than 9 inches water column, and we begin the test. This will be a minimum of 3-minute test. We'll fast forward the video and show the pressure at the end of 3 minutes. We're at the end of the 3-minute test period, and the reading is approximately 2 inches water column, indicating this leak in the system from the same leak that we observed in the other tests, which would be in the order of a pilot light. Thank you for your time and interest in maintaining safety in the propane industry.